Hi, Noah. The first thing I'd like to talk about with your kicking action is your momentum. You generate some good momentum in your run up and your approach to the kick. You do see after you've kicked the ball, or actually through the kicking action, through that middle part of your kicking action, you do slow down, and that also slows down the momentum. And then once your kicking foot comes back down to the ground, you rebuild your momentum and then you run off through your kick. The other thing you see in your run up line, you can see how you start on the right hand screen, and then the last 4 or 5 steps, you start to run out to the left angle, so out to the left of the screen. What I want you to be aware of, that's not a bad thing, but what I'd like you to be aware of is when you run at an angle towards where you actually want to kick the ball. So in this kick, if you remember, we put the intended target, the one that you were aiming for, directly behind the video camera. When you run on that angle, it actually increases the difficulty to hit the target for accuracy. It's not impossible. It does make it more difficult. Also, what happens when you run on that line is that's also the line that your momentum goes. And you can see your runoff line, you continue that angle out after the runoff line as well. So, as I mentioned, it's not impossible to kick accurately with that, and you do see a lot of AFL players run at angles. Keep in mind they've had many years and many hours experience with their kicking technique. But with your kick, and when you run it at that angle, because the momentum goes on that way and it falls off to the left-hand side after the kick, you lose the chance to be able to transfer a lot of your momentum into your kick. Now, because you lose that, the other thing that starts to compromise and you lose is maximizing all of that power and force that you can actually transfer through your kick. And when you get more power and force, then that allows you to increase things like depth and distance in your kick as well. The thing I want you to practice is being able to continue your momentum through your kick and towards your intended target. Something that will help you with that is reducing or practicing reducing that where you run off to the left of screen, but practicing running in more of a straight line towards your target. And then that'll also allow you to continue your momentum through that line smoothly and fluently and towards your target. The other thing that I want you to be aware of and practice is when you can see in this kick, when you bring your kicking foot down to the ground, you can see it on that right hand image. The first part of your kicking foot that touches the ground is your heel. When that happens, it's like putting the brakes on, like slowing down. So that's something else that's contributing to you losing a lot of that momentum, and it's not smoothly transferred into your kick. So when you practice these type of kicks where you build up a lot of momentum and you want to continue your momentum through the kick because of all those things I've mentioned, I want you also to practice landing on the toes of your kicking leg, because that will allow you to just smoothly and fluently move through the kick. Another part of your kicking action that I'd like to talk about is your ball drop. So I'm going to split your ball drop into 2 different parts. One of them is going to be the balance arm, which is your left arm. The other one's going to be your guiding hand. Let's talk about your balance arm first. So you can see when you bring your balance arm off the football, you bring it out to your left-hand side. That's a really good starting point. It's opening up you across the top of your chest. It's keeping you nice and upright. And right at that point, that kicking action. The pleasing thing is the motion that balance arm makes. You make what we call the reverse C, and this is something that we actually take time to teach players who do not have a lot of balance in their kick. So you can see when it's out to your left-hand side, you then push it back, you bring it down and forward and through. And that back, down and forward and through motion, it looks like a reverse letter C, and that's why we call it the reverse letter C. You do see that when it comes back down and through, you do bring it out in front of you. It's almost like it's pointing to where you want to kick the ball. The reason why it's coming up and out in front of you is because it's trying to generate some more momentum to go through the kick, because you're landing on that heel of your kicking foot and you're slowing the momentum. So what I want you to practice, when you're running more of a straight run-up line, you're able to continue momentum through the kick and land on the toes of your kicking foot. Then that will then start to allow you to keep that balance arm when you finish the reverse C down your left-hand side around the level of your hips, because that will also then help you keep your momentum low and through your kick. That's when it comes down and through, right at the bottom of that reverse C. So that's really good. That's actually providing you with a lot of really good balance through your kick. The other part of your ball drop is your guiding hand, and that's your right hand. So because you're able to take your balance arm off the football first, and then it makes that reverse C, you also have you're able to guide the ball down with your guiding hand, and you guide it down to just around the level of probably your tummy where you release the ball. Ideally, what I want you to practice is, it's not a huge concern with where you're releasing the ball. It is a bit high, but it is affecting your kicking action. So what I want you to practice is releasing it, guiding and controlling that ball a little bit lower, so about the level of your hips. That's the ideal spot. The reason why I say it's affecting your kick, if you have a look at the left-hand image, and when you release that ball with that guiding hand, have a look at the angle that the ball's at. You can see that if we use a clock face to talk about angles, it's pointing at about 1 o'clock. And then it stays on that angle all through the kick, but your kicking leg is actually nice and straight. It's not swinging across your body. It's actually your kicking leg line is relatively straight at the point of impact as well, but the ball is on a little bit of an angle. Now, because you've got such a straight kicking leg line, and I'm going to predict that when you run in more of a straight line, your kicking leg line will be very straight, like straight up and down at 12 o'clock and then back down to 6 o'clock, straight up and down. With that ball drop, if you continue to release that ball drop on an angle, so at 1 o'clock, then the ball line and your kicking leg line will not overlap, and you will start to have serious issues with your accuracy and your consistency in your accuracy. So what I want you to do is, when you practice releasing the ball and guiding and controlling the ball back down to the level of the hips, and you have more of a straight run-up line, this is in your practice of your kicking action and development of your kicking action. I also want you to focus and concentrate on releasing the ball so it is straight up and down as well, and release it over the thigh of your kicking leg. What that will do is, a 12 o'clock ball release and a ball line, your kicking leg will come straight through in a straight motion because you're releasing it over the thigh of your kicking leg. That also then allows you to move your momentum through the kick. It allows you to make that balance arm, and all those things will start to work together much better, and you'll start to get a really good feel for what it's like to kick with a lot of balance, momentum, and the ball drop and your kicking leg line overlapping at the point of impact. Once you get really good feel for that, then you can start practicing more difficult type of kicks. And the last thing I want to mention is what your kicking foot is doing. So if we have a look at the right hand image, you can see that at the point of impact, your toes are pointing toward the intended target. And then once you kick the ball, you can see how your toes then point up towards the sky. Now, that's telling me you're kicking with a loose ankle. I want you to practice locking your ankle through the whole kicking action. When you lock your ankle, your toes will naturally point towards the intended target. But the important thing it does is gives you a firm foot from which to kick the ball from. So when you get a lot of more power and force through your kick, to transfer it into the kick, you want to be able to kick with a locked ankle and a firm foot.